So this is where now the project starts. What we start with, we are going to create the model. So the model will be handling the data that we have, because now we don't want to use the custom authentication of Django. We have a way that we can improve on it, the Django authentication. So that is where you have the abstract base user, where you have password, last login is active, and other things. So this is where we're gonna extend it, using, that is, inheritance. We're gonna inherit, then we're gonna work on it. Then we have the permission mixing that we're gonna use to know if it is super user, groups, and user permissions. So that is permission checking methods will be in that place. Then we have the base user manager. So this is where you normalize email, make random password, then get the natural key user creation methods. So as you look at this image, as you can see in this image, we have the database. So then we start like this. User will send the request, that is JSON. Then it comes to the serializer. Then serializer deserializes, then it sends to the user model. Then user model interact with the database. Then database gives back the query. Then user model converts it from the query to user model to Django ORM. From Django ORM, you serialize it. Then after that, the user receives the serialized data. So after that, here we'll have a lot of things to do. So let us go and work on it. We're gonna create the models for authentication. So let me clear this part. So what we'll do, first of all, we're gonna import what we need. That is from django.contrib.auth.models. We want to import abstract base user. We need permission mixins. Then we have the base user manager. This is for managing user. So then we'll create class. I'm gonna explain it. First of all we do it. User manager, let us call it user manager. So then we're gonna inherit base user manager. After that, we're gonna define a create user. Create user self email. We need email, password is none. Then we need extra fields. So if not email, if there is no email, we need to raise this error, value error, and we say the email field is the field must be set. Then if there's email, let us normalize it. Self.normalize is to make email part the domain part in small letters. User is equals to, we're gonna define user self dot model. So email will be email, the provided email, then the extra fields. So if there's password, user dot set password is to set password for the user. After that, we can save the user. Using what? So you save the user in the database DB. Then you return user. So we need to define even for creating super user. Create super user. Self what? Email, password. Gonna define password to be none. Then extra fields. So extra fields dot set to default. The default value will be, if it's stuff in super user, must be true. Then extra fields dot set default. If it's super user, this is where you save super user. We say true. Yeah. When you use this part, return self dot create user. This will help us when we be creating with password, obvious, now, and extra fields. So after that, we're gonna define now the class for the user. Class user. So we're gonna inherit abstract base user dot, not dot, and also permissions mixing or permissions. So we're gonna define this field that will be there. Email is equals to models dot email field. User email. So unique, yeah, it must be unique, this one, because we're gonna use it to be the unique. Then we have username models dot car. So this is character, car field, max length, max length. We don't want to be too large, so we can put it to be 70. Then unique, obvious. Unique, this is when creating using the terminal or the command line. So first name, obvious. First name of the user, models dot, this is a character field, obvious. So character field, max length, so max length, so it can be blank, it can be blank, so we set true. After that, we need last name of the user, models dot car field so car field so max length can blank can be true. So you can define any field that you need from the user from here. Profile picture, models dot image field. Yes, for image field we need to upload to profile pictures. Is where the users who gonna upload their profile, they'll be stored. Blank is equals to true. Also null can be true. After that we need to have what? We need to add its phone number to get the number from the user. You say models dot these are number, so what we use here, but sometimes it will be having the country code, so character field max length, don't think there is number that exists, 15, blank is equals to true, so null can be true. After that we have is verified. Is verified models dot, these are boolean, so boolean field. So boolean field default we want it to be false. It's verified, you can see it is false first, yeah. Then it's active. It's active, we can say models dot boolean field default will be yes. It's active, we need to on the registration, so it should be true. Then it's stuff. Stuff is equals to models dot boolean field default will be automatically false. I don't want user to be stuff when creating, so created at is equals to models dot date time field, yeah. So date, this is for date time, so auto now add, this one will be used because I want to set it to true, so that it will be updated only during creation. Then updated at is equals to models dot date time field where auto now is equals to true. This will be updated every moment the user updates their profile. So what you need next to do is to add the objects. The objects will be user manager. We want to use that user manager up there. Then username field. Username field is from the, so we want username field to be email. Then required fields is equals to username. This is how you create your own user, where you can add all the properties of the user you want to add. So we need to define str. This is for defining strings, so that we don't see the name object in the admin dashboard. Instead, now we want to see the return self.email. This will just return the email of the user. Then we need to have the def. We get full name. To get full name will be self-obvious because it's in the class. Gonna use what is in the class. So if, first of all, we must check whether first name and self.last name, if they are available, we need to return string of self.first name, then with space, then we have self.last name. That is the table with the fields. We need to create the serializer. So what you do when you want to create serializer, that is to convert the JSON to Django RM, or from Django, or from Serializers.py. So here you're gonna define what you're gonna convert and what you need. So what we'll do is that we're gonna convert. So we're gonna use serializers from that is where now you start playing with the Django REST framework. So from REST framework we import what? We import serializers. So the moment, then from the models, because it is in the same folder, from .models we import user, our user that we have created. So we'll name this class user serializer. So class user serializer. So serializers dot model. So we use model serializer to what we do first, we're gonna define the profile picture URL. This is where you check the data, you do a lot of things from this point. So serializers dot serializer method field. So there is a function. So field, what have I done? Field, yeah, it's a function. So after that you define meta. When you are dealing with with creating serializers is this part. We must use meta. So where you define model that you're using, it's obvious you're using the user that we have imported there up. Then after that, we need the fields that we need to expose to the front end or to the client. So we have the list. So the list, we're gonna expose ID, gonna expose email, username. Then we're gonna expose first name as they are named in the model. So last name, then we have profile, then we have profile picture, the profile picture. We need to expose what else? Profile picture URL, that one here up, profile picture URL. Then we have phone number, then it's verified, then we have what else? Created at, oh yes, updated at. So after that, but I don't think we need to expose updated at because that will be direct. So what we need, read only fields. These are the fields that you cannot edit direct from the API. So ID, email, created at, yes, verified, and then profile picture URL. Then we're gonna define the way we're gonna get the profile picture URL. Get self, then with object. So for those who don't know why, because we have used here a read-only field that gets representation from calling a method on the parent serializer class. The method called will be in the form of get, then field name. You get the point? Get, then that's why we have used get, then profile picture URL, and should take a single argument, which is the object being serialized. So we have the example there. So that's how it is used. So because you want to get the profile picture, so if obj object dot profile picture, so if we have the profile picture, we return self dot context. So in the request, it will come from the request dot build absolute URI. So from object dot profile, we want to get from profile picture. Profile picture dot URI. So this one exposes the URL, of the profile where it is located. So then if we don't, so before we start working on the authentication now, we need to install the package that we're gonna be using. That is we'll be using Simple JWT, that is Simple JSON Web Tokens for the REST framework. So how are we gonna install it? So pip install Django REST framework Simple JWT. So the purpose of this, it is to provide stateless authentication through tokens, more secure than basic session for APIs. Then includes token refresh capabilities, then configurable token lifetime settings. Then it has a blacklisting capabilities for revoked tokens. Then it is good for cross-platform, that is web and mobile authentication. So what will happen now for you to use the Simple JWT JSON Web Tokens? So what you need to do, first of all, you must make sure that you have set up. There's some configuration that we're gonna do in the settings.py. This is where you do your settings. This is where you do a lot of things. So what will happen if you can go to the documentation, Simple JWT, there are some things that you will see there. So what we'll do is that we're gonna add it in the settings.py. We're gonna come to the, you can add it anywhere you want, but I will add it here below. So REST framework settings. This is for the REST framework. So we do REST framework is equals to that one. So we'll have default authentication. We want to have default authentication classes. This is where you define your classes that will be used for authentication. So I will use REST framework Simple JWT dot authentication dot JWT authentication. So that is how it is. Then these are the settings that we want to do before we start working on that project. So default permission classes will be what? Let us use REST framework permissions dot is authenticated. So after that, now we need to have the simple JWT settings. Okay, simple JWT is equals to, so we want to have access token lifetime. This is for the life of the access token. Which is time delta, then into bracket minutes is equals to 15 minutes. We want it to be just 15 minutes. So time delta will come from Django datetime, so we need to add that here on top from our imports. So from datetime import time delta. This is for time. So after we do that, the next thing that we need to configure, we need to know the lifetime for refresh token. All of this you can copy them from the documentation for simple JWT. So time delta, this one we're gonna give it days. This one will last for days so that user can be able to get new access token. Then rotate refresh tokens, we say true. Then blacklist what? Blacklist after rotation. So the moment the refresh token it is used, you should blacklist it. So true, we're gonna say true. Then we're gonna use, now we want to use the algorithm that will be used for these tokens. The algorithm will be HS256 bytes. So then signing key obvious will be signing key. This one we use secret key that is up there in our project. Then auth header is the header of the auth header types. You can declare different types. So I've not quoted this. So auth header types, we just have one, so that is bearer. Then user ID field, we want to get the user ID field, that is the one that is having ID. Then user claim ID, this is what we'll be using for claiming. ID field, user ID claim, used for getting the user ID user. Then user ID, then auth token classes. Yeah, we're gonna use the simple JWT. Okay, REST framework simple JWT dot tokens dot access token. You can have multiple, but we'll have that one. Then token type claim. Token type. So that is the simple JWT settings. So the other thing that we need to add, because we are doing development, so here down we'll do something to set the JWT cookies. So JWT cookie secure false. So but in the development, set to true in the production. Okay, when using HTTPS. If not so, set it to false. JWT also cookie name, you can give it a name that you want, but I will give it refresh for consistency token. So after we have configured that, we're gonna come here to the authentication. So in the authentication, we're gonna create a core folder. This is where we're gonna put the core that will be used by different folders in this app. So first of all, we must declare init so that it can be recognized in this part. So after that, in this folder we have base, as you have seen the image, BaseView.py. that one will have the BaseView. Then we'll have exceptions, obvious, exceptions.py. we'll have JWT Utils.py, and lastly we have response.py. So we start with the base. We can start with the base API, base view. So in the base view, what we will need, we need to import traceback. Or before you do that, okay, yeah, we can import traceback. Then we're gonna import logging to be able to log errors. Then because we're gonna inherit from REST framework, the REST framework.views, import API view. This is for creating API views that you're gonna have to create your own views. So you're gonna inherit from that. Then we're gonna import REST framework dot response, so that we're gonna work with the responses. So response, then I think from REST framework we're gonna import status, then from REST framework dot exceptions import, we're gonna import authentication field, because this is for authentication. Then we're gonna import from REST framework Simple JWT dot exceptions. We're gonna import token error. This is for token error. So after that, we're gonna create logger. This is for logging errors and also responses that are not the way we want them to be. Logging dot get logger. So this one we're gonna have name. This is a Python using Dunda method that is having double hyphens, then name. So this is for helping so that we're gonna be able to know the name of the file. So class, we're gonna define the base AP or API view. We're gonna inherit from API view. So here we're gonna create this. So in API view, so this is, let us have the documentation. So base, we say this is base class for all API views with common error handling and response formatting. That is for documentation. So def, we're gonna define a method. A method is just a function in the class. So handle, we're gonna handle what? Exception. So as you can see, we have that. So but because we want ours come from the API, here it is. As you can see, it has the exception, then handle any exception that occurs by returning an appropriate response. So if you want to go through, you can go through. So exceptions dot whatever. So if it's instance exec, so instance of this, so you can visit the documentation or you can open it from this point. That's why we have the exceptions here. So because we are inheriting, so let us do what? Let us have a standardized exception handling for all. For API views. So if is instance, so this is a built-in function in exec, as you saw in the documentation. So let us see if it's an authentication failed, the exception. So we return what? We're gonna return if it has the exception as authentication failed, we're gonna return this kind of response. We're gonna say what? So we use standardized response. We're gonna create this one, standardized response, where we put success. This one has success, obvious because success has failed, so it is false. Then error, we're gonna use what? Error string of that exception. Then status, we're gonna have status dot http. You can see we have the http from Django REST. These are the list. So because it has failed, so we're gonna use 401. So 401 unauthorized, yeah, because it has failed. Else if oh yes, that is else if is instance of, so if exception, it is instance of token error, we're gonna return response. So the response will be standardized response that accepts these things here. So we're gonna create it in here, in this part of response. So we're gonna define just a standardized response success is equals to true, then data is equals to none. We are defining these ones that gonna be used, error none, then message none, then we have the keywords arguments, keyword arguments, you can call it the way you want to call it, but it's better to use the standardized one. So here I'm gonna use that. So summary creates the standardized what? Response format. Then we're gonna have bool here. So this is for whether the operation was successful. Then here the data will be the type will be dictionary. Then it will be optional. So description be data to return. Then the error type obviously be a string. This string, then so this error message if unsuccessful. So this one will be string, obvious. Then description of the message to be a success or info. Then we have the keywords, keyword argument. So this one will be, these quags will be additional fields to include in response. So this what happens is that returns a dictionary. So it's a formatted response dictionary. So we're gonna define response. So response will be equals to success, will be assigned to success. Yeah, okay. After that we're gonna check if there's data. If data is not none, response, you're gonna add that data here. Response, we're gonna add that data, you're gonna assign it here. If there's an error, we're gonna assign it here. We're gonna say response in the part of error. We're gonna assign that error. Yeah, that error that will come from that point. Then if message is not none, response in that part, response, we're gonna add message if there was a message. And lastly, we're gonna check for, so we're gonna add any additional fields. So for key value in quags in the keywords means dot items. This is how you get the data from a dictionary. So key, that key you assign that value. Then finally we're gonna return response. So after creating that, this, we should now go to, first of all, we update the base API to remove the error for the standard and standardized response. So we'll do, because it is in the same folder, so we'll do from dot response import standardized response. So after that, we are going to create the exceptions.py. This is for handling exceptions that are not in, that are custom to us. So what we'll do is that we're gonna open from Django .utils translation import get text lazy as. So then also we're gonna import exceptions from REST framework dot exceptions import API exception. So we're gonna create our own exceptions. So account, we will start with account locked. This is for handling when account is locked. So the exception that will be given. So we're gonna inherit from API exception. So status code, it is 403. Then default detail, these are coming from API exception. So we're gonna use get text lazy. So account is temporarily locked due to multiple failed attempts. This is when the user attempts multiple times and then giving the wrong password multiple times, so they get locked. Default code is equals to account locked. Then we're gonna need a class for handling when email not verified. Email not verified exception. These are just exceptions, so we're gonna use them. In while handling these exceptions in our system. So status code is equals to 403 also. Then default detail is equals to get text lazy email verification required. then default code will be email not verified. Then we're gonna define another one for invalid token, class invalid token exception. So API exception, that is where you're inheriting from. Status code will be 41, then default detail will be invalid or expired token. Then default code is equals to invalid token. Lastly, we're gonna create the rate limited exception. This is to be able to show the user they have exited or they have met the rate for login, for putting the credentials. Exception, then API exception. Status code is equals to 429. Then default detail is equals to, so rate limit exited. Please try again later. So default code will be rate limited. So the next thing that we're gonna handle, we're gonna come here to JWT Utils. This is where we're gonna handle the utils for every, from token management, from token, getting token, deleting, blacklisting, all the things that we're gonna do on the tokens. So someone can be asking, why do we have the custom exceptions? So here in the custom exceptions, we are defining authentication specific exceptions that provide clear HTTP status codes and descriptive messages. So for example, the account locked exception, that is with the status for 3, that means forbidden. So purpose, it is triggered when too many failed login attempts occur. Then security benefit prevents brute force attacks. So we are preventing brute force attacks here. Also, email not verified exception, this is status for 3, forbidden also. So ensures users verify their email before accessing protected resources. Security benefit confirms user identity and email ownership. Then invalid token exception, that is status code 41 unauthorized. So signals when authentication tokens are invalid or expired. So security benefit enforces token security policies. Then rate limited exception, status code 429, that is too many requests. So purpose prevents API abuse through excessive request. Security benefit protects against DDoS attacks and scrapping. So after that, also you can ask why do we have the standardized response. So the standardized response, this one here, let us go through it. So this one, it will provide a consistent response structure across all API endpoints. So we have that, we have the success as I explained and other things. So benefits, obvious, consistent response structure for front-end handling, clear separation of successful and error responses, extensible for specific endpoints needs.